Our first exercise is all about finding and discovering how to use our diaphragm in the breath. So curl your fingers under your rib cage, and as you breathe, get a sense of the breath coming outward in a horizontal fashion when you breathe in, and sinking back in as you exhale. As you get a feel for this movement, let the shoulders relax and let the breath happen at the diaphragm. You can push as hard as is comfortable on the muscle, but the important part of this exercise is discovering the breath happening in the diaphragm. Keep your shoulders relaxed and move your fingers in. We're breathing with the gut, not with the shoulders and not with the neck. When you get in further, avoid pushing directly on the center of your solar plex. Now grab a seat and let's get a sense for our pelvic tilt here. Imagine your pelvis is a bowl filled with water, and when you roll forward it spills out the front, and when you roll back it spills out the back. Now breathing in all the way, spill the water out front and arch your back. And squeeze your abs, spill the water out the back, and exhale all the air you can. Now just continue that at your own pace. And let's do one last exhale here, all the way out, and we will move on. For our next movement, you're going to want to grab a book. You can use a heavy book, you can use multiple books. If you're doing this for the first time, don't go crazy. Now just lie on your back, and when you inhale, push that book toward the ceiling as far as you can. And then when you exhale, curl your pelvis up, and the front pubic bone will come towards your nose. And we'll just do this a handful of times. Pay extra attention to the sensation you're feeling in your diaphragm. You don't want to overdo this in the beginning. And when you inhale, you should feel your back arch off of wherever you're laying. And when you exhale, you want to try and flatten your back against the surface as much as possible. As you continue to do all these exercises, you'll be able to do more repetitions. I aimed for about 10 this time. Just remember, it's more about doing it regularly than how much you can do it one time. Alright, good job. Now let's get on our hands and knees and get ready for the cat-cow. We're going to do a slight variation. I believe it's actually the opposite of how you breathe in some yoga practice. So, inhaling, your belly is falling toward the floor and you're arching your back and letting your back sort of melt off of your shoulders. Exhaling, you're going to arch your back like the angry cat. Inhaling, you're arching your back and kind of leaning, pushing forward. Exhaling, pulling. Inhaling, pushing forward. The key here is getting as much pelvic and spinal mobility with the breath as possible, and also relaxing your shoulder blades so that they slide right off your rib cage. Now we're going to push up into a downward dog, inverted V position, and do a similar thing with our spine. Inhaling, your belly button falls toward the floor. Bend your knees if you need to. And exhaling, your belly button goes toward the ceiling. Now, as you get used to this movement, you can start curling your back more and tilting that pelvis like we did in the rock and roll position. You may find it easier to have your knees bent, but just remember, with the breath, tilt the pelvis, arch the back, and lift the head. Breathing is a whole body movement. Okay, now you can lower down, and we're done with that one. Sit back into child's pose. Our next movement is in a standing position. Just think of it as kind of just normal breathing practice. Notice the tilt of the pelvis. It's a little less exaggerated when you're standing. Just push the belly out when you breathe in and pull the belly in when you breathe out. And you'll feel a slight movement in the pelvis when you do this now, much more easily than you would have before. And if you need another kinesthetic way of observing this, you can place your hands on your belly and lower back and just start getting into a natural flow. Okay, and let's call that the last one. Good job. Now just regain your faculties. Sometimes all this breathing can feel strange. And go grab a balloon. Now for the first part of this balloon exercise, we will be incorporating a more exaggerated pelvic tilt. But what I want you to focus on most is keeping your cheeks in your face and keeping your neck relaxed. You will begin to feel a direct connection between your belly and the balloon. One more time. Awesome. Now for the next one, we're going to do a more abrupt pulsation. So now it's all about speed. Inhale slowly and deeply through your mouth. Push quickly with your diaphragm. Very good. Now we are going to do a rock and roll pulsation. So that's the rock and roll standing and exhaling very quickly, very strongly. Be sure to do an exaggerated pelvic tilt with both directions for this exercise. Pause for a moment if you need to, and we'll do about 10 more at a different angle. And last one. Alright, now for the standard exhale pulsation. Simply do the exhale pulsation and isolate the movement just to the diaphragm. It's going to be a much more subtle pelvic involvement like you'll do in your everyday breathing. And last one. All right, very good.